Every city is unique in her own way. Such is St. Petersburg, on the Neva, always proud and majestic. Myths, legends and history, everything in this city is connected to Peter the Great. The emperor created St. Petersburg in a European fashion, but Peter's masterpiece turned out to be original, strict and exquisite. Much water has flowed under the bridge since then. Emperors have come and gone, but St. Petersburg has always remained the muse and loyal patron of poets, artists and musicians. Theatre Square, the famous and always elegant Mariinsky theatre, the cradle of Russian music and ballet art. How many fantastic premieres have taken place here? How many artists have reaped applause in this house? Marius Petipa, Shaliapin, Anna Pavlova, Tamara Karsavina, Alexander Golovin. What names! For many years, the Mariinsky theatre was glorified by my compatriots, ethnic Georgians, George Balanchin, Vakhtang Chabukiani, Soliko Virsaladze. In fond memory of those wonderful stage masters, this film is dedicated. Across the square from the Mariinsky Theatre stands the oldest conservatoire in Russia. It was here in 1889 that Manana Kvachadze, the father of George Balanchin, came to study from Tbilisi. His professor was Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. The young Georgian sang very well and was preparing for a career as an opera singer. Rimsky-Korsakov thought otherwise. "You'll make a good composer, but I don't even have a piano," replied Meliton to the famous master. When he came home, a piano sent by Rimsky-Korsakov stood by the doorway to his house. Later on, as a display of gratitude to his alma mater, Balanchivadze published the first full collection of letters of Mikhail Glinka at his own expense. Let us hear about what happened next in Meliton Balanchivadze's life in St. Petersburg, from his younger son, a well-known Georgian composer in his own right, Balanchivadze. This is the house where we all grew up in the family of the composer Meliton Balanchivadze. What a serendipity! A Georgian composer, native of Kutaisi, got started in Leningrad, while a Russian poet Mayakovsky was born in Georgia in Kutaisi province. This is me, the youngest in the family. Here I am with my sister Tamara and brother George. This is future George Balanchin. Tamara became an artist. Here's our mother, Maria Vasilyeva, the father. The choir of St. Petersburg Georgians, founded by the father. George Balanchivadze was born in St. Petersburg in 1904. The Balanchivadzes were a small part of Georgia on Russian soil. In this house, music was a movable feast, reigned by the song. Every sound, every move, the little George would perceive in his own way. Heroes of fairy tales, princes and princesses, fairies and witches came to life before him. It wasn't just a game. Thus Balanchin started. Balanchin saw and heard the plastic musical character of St. Petersburg. This city, saturated with the airy harmony of Pushkin's verses and the magical music of Tchaikovsky, was a sublime spectacle for the little George. The city was a theater, a city where the scenery kept changing, a unique city with its brilliant creations of the Russian spirit. He was an unfailing participant in this performance. The Imperial Ballet School. These days, the building houses the Academy of the Russian Ballet, named after Agrippina Vaganova. These pictures display the whole history of the Russian ballet, from Marius Petipa to the modern Russian ballet stars. This was the starting point for everyone who would shine brightly on the Mariinsky stage. The Russian ballet school remains true to its glorious tradition. And that is the time when the little George was brought by his parents to the ballet school. He was into music at the time. His passion for the ballet came later. He found new friends, and together they created and searched for new ways. After graduation, the young choreographer started an independent company. His brave, innovative productions had mixed reviews in the ballet circles, yet the evenings of the young academic ballet stayed in history as the climax of the St. Petersburg period in Balanchin's oeuvre. The roaring 20th century brought the war, the revolution, chaos and devastation. As fate would have it, on the 4th of July 1924, George Balanchin, like thousands of other Russians, left his native city and emigrate. Having left his hometown, Balanchin didn't seek a permanent haven. In his mind, he lived in St. Petersburg, the city that was a major impulse for his visual fantasies. Balanchin borrowed the scenery, the color ranges of costumes, and the character of the lighting, and turned it all into his uniquely refined choreography. Many of his ballets do not have a plot, but they have an address, St. Petersburg. 38 years later, the world-renowned master returned to his motherland under a new name. It was Georgi Balanchivadze who left Russia, and it was George Balanchin who came back. I'm often asked, who are you, Russian or Georgian? Then I reckon that by blood I'm Georgian, by culture I'm Russian, but where I really belong is St. Petersburg. The former leading dancer of the Mariinsky theater, Nikita Dolgushin, became American, but he forgot neither the Georgian culture nor the Russian culture, the ballet specificity and culture of St. Petersburg. He taught his class very calmly, slowly, without a piano player, to the snapping of his fingers, and suggested to his dancers certain combinations that were very graphic: forward, aside, backward, and this is it. The combinations were short, but one move, et battement tendu, took up to 15 minutes of an exercise. Usually the whole exercise lasted only 20 minutes, but his exercise lasted and lasted. Mind you, during the touring, when the company would give 2 performances a day, his hour-and-a-half lesson was excruciatingly valuable.
Начав в медленном темпе, он закончил урок чрезвычайно быстрым и
Having started in a slow tempo, he finished the lesson in a very fast and sharp tempo, giving his attention practically to everyone. He didn't single out the first dancers or the corps de ballet, though he couldn't help but approach Allegra Kent, pat her slightly and say, "Sheni Jirime, I was crazy about this very human, small trait of his character." My wife is Georgian, so I understood what he said. I'm not sure whether the Americans understood it, but judging by the relationship they all enjoyed, by how they looked at him, how they perceived his calm, quiet and modest remarks, I realized they were all in love with him. Everyone. Soviet censors were not very enthusiastic about Balanchin's oeuvre. "The plotless ballet has no future," wrote the ideologically correct. But the professionals and ballet fans held the opposite view. Balanchin became the ambassador of goodwill in his own home. That home was as warm and hospitable as back in his childhood. They called my ballets plotless, abstract. I would reiterate, no, my ballets are concrete. You can't see or touch an abstract. It is but the idea that is abstract. I've got people, they've got arms and legs, so this is all real. This is dance. The school, the same school, and there's no other. The language of the classical dance is one, universal and eternal. After 1972, Balanchin never came back to Russia. Then, in 1983, he passed away. But years later, the master returned to his native city and did it triumphantly in his masterpieces that had become classics. In collaboration with the George Balanchin Foundation, the Mariinsky Theatre staged a number of marvelous performances, a theme with variations, and serenade to music by Tchaikovsky, the Scottish Symphony to music by Mendelssohn, Stravinsky's Apollo Musicale, and The Last Jewels. On the stage of the Mariinsky Theatre are its first dancers, Uliana Lopatkina and Igor Zelensky. Rubies, music by Stravinsky, choreography by Balanchin, a brilliant tandem of two great artists, the Mariinskys prima Irma Nioradze and Adrian Fadeev. Balanchin and Stravinsky, the marvelous tandem of the two great artists. Admiring Stravinsky's music, Balanchin affirmed that everything he'd written could be and should be expressed in dance. Seeing Balanchin's choreography is like listening to the very music with your eyes, wrote Stravinsky. Enjoyment of his work is limitless. Two years after George Balanchivadze left Russia, a new talented dancer with a yet unknown Georgian name entered the Leningrad Ballet School, Vakhtang Chabukiani. In these unique shots, you can see Agrippina Vaganova. Today, George Alexidze, a well-known choreographer in St. Petersburg from Georgia, teaches here. Another of Balanchin's compatriots and Chabukiani's heirs is Boris Bregvadze, a former renowned first dancer of the Mariinsky. We are going to see more of him in this film. Again, we're in the Academy's museum, this time in the hall of the Soviet Ballet. It is impossible to think of the Soviet Ballet without the name of Vakhtang Chabukiani. These are his first steps on the ballet stage. He studied in the Academy for 3 years. In the 1940s and 50s, Vakhtang Chabukiani was the public's idol. In Leningrad, he was the hot news. Soon the dizzying heights of the Soviet ballet succumbed to him. In Leningrad, everybody loved him. People would recognize him in the street and meet him with great ovations. Decades passed. The idols of the past were replaced with their gifted pupils. These days, dance is different. But the fans of Vakhtang Chabukiani have great reminiscences. Vakhtang Chabukiani is dance genius. Of that, there is no doubt. You don't even have to pontificate about it. You've only got to remember it and tell how he did it, how he danced, how he moved, how he engaged the audience using his immense influence, how he helped his partners. I'm happy that I have seen all of it. My generation saw the dancing Vakhtang Chabukiani. The former leading dancer of the Mariinsky theatre, Boris Bregvadze, what I really appreciated was how he walked, how he ran. This is very hard, to walk about the stage like a prancing horse. Chabukiani could do that marvelously. And when he danced, it was every nerve dancing in him, every muscle. He kindled everyone around him. The audience was overwhelmed with a tornado of emotions. Of course, it was reciprocal. The audience couldn't stay indifferent. Some dancers don't really send anything into the audience, but in his case, the vibrations were amazing, driving the audience mad. His dance is poetry. It is the very dynamics, some cosmic whirlwind. It exploded the space where it happened, and you found yourself sucked into the space. You were partaking of the divine. Natalia Dudinskaya, the former prima of the Mariinsky theatre, I danced with Vakhtang, Don Quixote, Bayadera, Swan Lake, that is, all classical repertoire and the new repertoire we had then. Yuri Gamalei, the former conductor of the theatre, The Heart of the Mountains was unique and very interesting in that all of its creators came from the Georgian people. The composer Andrei Balanchivadze, a highly cultured person who wrote the music for the ballet, Chabukiani, a wonderful dancer and choreographer, and Soliko Virsaladze, responsible for the costumes. Chabukiani made a very interesting melange of Georgian folk dances and the classics. Nothing like that had been made possible in the Kirov or in the Mariinsky theatre. There was a slight hint in Marius Petipa's Don Quixote, but I'd never seen it in any other production. After that ballet, Chabukiani created Laurentia, where he yet further developed his combination of the ethnic and the classical. Of course, in Laurentia, those were not Georgian dances, but Spanish.
Лауреncia шла долго, до самой войны,
Laurentia went on and on up to the war and was a huge success. Chabukiani made very interesting variations and companies. I liked that ballet a lot. Vakhtang and I danced it very often. Actually, we danced together a lot from 1935 until the war broke out. Tragedy was about to happen. At the time, no one could imagine what awaited them. The war broke all artistic plans. The evacuated Kirov theatre found itself in Perm. Chabukiani returned to Georgia. In Tbilisi, Laurentia started its new life. In the 1960s, Chabukiani re-emerged in Leningrad, this time in the capacity of director and the protagonist dancer. It was Othello. So the performance starts and he addresses the doges. You have summoned for me. Well, here I am. When he danced, when he knelt all his being before Desdemona, when he danced his version, the just stood up. They couldn't bear this avalanche of emotional and aesthetic superiority. What he did, his choreography, I felt very comfortable with it. I felt it. When you don't feel the choreography, you dance badly. Although technically you are doing everything okay, but then I felt it. Recently I came to one probably it is the Georgian blood that plays a certain role in it. So I am very grateful to him for leaving me this heritage. The very combination of these words, Vakhtang Chabukiani, this is something exciting and sublime. Vakhtang Chabukiani sounds great. This is the way Vakhtang Chabukiani stayed in my memory and will stay as long as I am alive. Not in my memory, it stayed in the history of the world ballet. I do not know any such God-gifted dancers. There are other dancers too, but none like Chabukiani, who made the audience ecstatic. People left his performances excited, red-cheeked, and he was loved. He was especially loved in St. Petersburg and still remembered there.
Часто мои репетиторы, педагоги
Irma Neuradze, a prima of the Mariinsky theatre, often my teachers recollect Vakhtang Chabukiani, and this is very pleasant. He danced with such spirit, such energy, that sometimes it deprived the audience of the night's sleep, they told. It made me very proud. It helped me a lot, supported me. I felt like I wasn't lonely in the theatre. Tchaikovsky, The Nutcracker. You can recognize Virsaladze without looking at the credits. His style, his character is very personal. Simon Virsaladze is a brilliant Georgian set designer and artist, a true citizen and representative of intelligentsia. He was born in Tbilisi in 1909. From his childhood on, he was into arts, music and dance. His best artistic years related to Leningrad. He is fondly remembered there.
Это высокий, красивый, в юности занимавший балетом, я знаю.
He was a tall, beautiful man with big black eyes. In his youth, he'd done ballet, I know. Always calm, he never shouted, and a very knowledgeable artist. He was a great connoisseur of the daily life of different epochs. Whatever he did, by his design, he always set such a task that it was impossible to make bad choreography, bad production, because his design was always top-notch. The St. Petersburg Museum of Theatre and Music keeps some of Simon Virsaladze's sketches for the early performances staged in the Kirov Theatre. Giselle, Swan Lake. His art was European, multinational. Perhaps it was cosmopolitan in the good sense of the word. However, certain combinations of colors, red, black and some other colors, told us this was part of the Caucasian culture. This was not our artist. At the same time, he was ours.
спектакли, такие как «Спящая красавица Лебедина» и «Раймонда», впоследствии сменилось на
Sumptuous productions like Sleeping Beauty, Swan Lake, Raymond were later replaced by a stone flower, where more than half the stage was empty, and only in the background, in a black frame, you'd see the room where Katerina lived, or a Siberian forest, or a gypsy camp, or a fairy.
цыганский табор, то ярмарка. А в «Легенде о любви» он вообще сцену.
In his Legend of Love, he stripped the stage altogether. He put a huge book there that opened in the beginning as if it was telling you about that legend.
Фонари.
Ballet remains my burning love. It's closer to my heart. Here I find more harmony and aesthetic. Soliko Virsaladze wrote. I'm happy when my work lets the audience feel how music becomes visible, how dance puts on new clothes.
Я считаю, что
I think that Soliko Virsaladze helped Sergei very much as well when he staged his own productions, and Grigorovich. Grigorovich's successes in Sleeping Beauty, Spartacus, The Nutcracker and many others to a major extent were indebted to Soliko Virsaladze. He's unrivaled. I do not know an artist like him. My longest working relationship has been with Yuri Grigorovich. We made the first production, The Stone Flower, in Leningrad. Since then, we have been working on many productions. I like working with him. I've got used to him. We understand each other well, and I believe he bears no grudge against me. As years have gone by, Virsaladze's ballet costumes, like a young, fiery love, haven't lost their freshness and novelty, the zeitgeist. They are still full of music and movement, as if they'd never left the element of dance and are ready to rejoin the theatre carnival.
Я считаю, что это
Inna Zubkovskaya a former prima of the Mariinsky theatre. I think he was the best stage artist. I haven't seen anyone better than Soliko. He always helped me. When I worked on my new parts for new productions, Soliko always helped me. He made my costumes. Everything I danced in those costumes, and everybody admired them. When I was dancing in Don Quixote for the first time, everybody shouted that a guest performer had come, because they had never seen such costumes in the theatre. That man had such taste, such a pity that he's no longer among us. He was always in demand. Always, as long as there's art, as long as there's theatre, Soliko Virsaladze is in demand.
Я очень любила Сорико, и как художника, и как человека.
I like Soliko a lot, as an artist and as a human being. We were good friends. Vakhtang and Soliko were my best friends before the war. I'm happy to talk about them, and I'm very sad that they are gone. For those people brought about great art. They loved art so much that they gave to it all their lives. In this kingdom of theatre, not only epochs keep on living, but great persons as well. George Balanchin, Vakhtang Chabukiani, and Soliko Virsaladze.